Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. I'm going to get rolling today because I've got just a packed day for a program. We're going to be talking about life after death from a medium's perspective. And I'm going to be sharing a couple of tales from the other side about what it might look like or what someone might be experiencing over there in the etheric realm. Got a meditation for you, and thank you so much for joining us. So, life after death. What's going on over there? That or a similar question is among the most common that I hear from my clients about a loved one. They want to know how someone they care or worry about is doing. They wonder what it's like for them on the other side, and if they're aware that they're missed. They wonder if they're actually feeling the person around them that is passed, or if it's just their imagination or grief. Sometimes they feel guilty because they think that if the person is near them, that they're holding them back from fully crossing over. I experienced stories of those who had crossed through the images, emotions, and words that they share with me. And I've come to realize that each person's crossing over experience and life on the other side is highly unique and lovingly tailored to fit them individually. Not only is the physical experience of someone's passing physically unique, but the first sights, thoughts, and encounters they have in the etheric realm are etherically unique to them as well. What they see, who they meet, where they are at the time of their transition to the higher realm are just as individual as each of us are. This doesn't mean that we create our own reality to such a degree that there isn't an overarching process or essential truth, but it is fascinating to me as a medium to realize how absolutely unique our identities are. In a previous episode, we talked about the layers of the aura. And I think these layers correspond with the gradations that we find in the higher vibrational planes. One question that I also get asked on a fairly regular basis is there a hell? And to that I can say both yes and no. If you mean that there's a place of fire and torment, then the answer is absolutely not. Our source is nothing but love, truth, light, healing, health, wisdom, joy, and other good things. But it's our state of mind that limits our ability to accept and experience these states of being. What's true over there is true here on earth. I had a really unique experience in my 20s. Jesus of Nazareth physically manifested in my home. I will share the details of that encounter in another episode coming up, but let's suffice it to say that it was a life-changing experience. After his visitation, I wanted to see what hell looked like because I cared about the souls that might be there. And so I asked him to show me what it was like. And at the time, I was in a Pentecostal church, and concern for those that were suffering in hell and on the other side was a burden that the prayer warriors of the church carried and would often travail for in prayer. So, as I requested, I found myself in a vision, escorted and carried by two angels to the very gates of hell. They set me down right in front of them, and the first thing that I noticed was that the gates themselves were very tall, sort of made out of cast iron like you might see at the entry of a graveyard, and that they had been blown apart and were laying all cattywampus, nearly off the hinges. The next thing I noticed was that the ground that led in to hell had been packed down by the passing of multitudes. It had just been worn down to dust to the point that the land was barren and there was nothing that could possibly grow on that soil. As far as how it felt like there was a total separation from the divine, a complete unawareness that there was love or anything beautiful in the world. It was a feeling so far past depression. It was a feeling of total detachment, aloneness, emptiness, no fire, no life, just the charred remains of what might have been before. Hell itself was empty. No one was there, just some small, shadowy, skittery things that I knew were minions or the lower level of demons that kind of ran in fear away from us. So for years, I was pretty much at peace knowing that hell was empty and no one suffered there. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I made a connection to my experience and what is part of the Christian tradition of belief that states that Jesus destroyed the gates of hell and set its captives free. So in answer to the question, is there a hell? Yes, but it's empty and no one's there and no one's suffering in that state of being. So back to the question, what is life after death like? Well, as I mentioned, it's different for each individual experientially, but there is a process and some commonalities for each of us. One of my favorite authors is C.W. Ledbetter, and that's Leadbeater, Ledbetter. He's a medium and metaphysician who wrote several seminal books around the turn of the century toward the early 1900s. And the reason that I like his books so much is that they both resonate with my experiences with those in spirit, and they illuminate the frameworks and underlying processes of mediumship and the journey of us as souls. So I'm going to share some interesting bits from one of his books, The Life After Death. When we pass, we remain the same as before death. And that's really something to think about because we have this image that somehow we drop our bodies and then instantly we're transformed maybe into a cherub with a harp on a cloud or maybe into some higher being. But angels are angels, guides are guides, and people are people, spirits are spirits. We really don't change that much when we pass. We retain our intellect, our qualities and powers that we have, and the conditions that our thoughts and desires have created for us. There isn't an external reward or punishment. You're just left with a deep awareness of what you have done or have not done. Life after death is a continuation of life, of your life. In reality, we're never separate from the dead because they are around us all the time. Separation is really a matter of consciousness and conscience awareness. We don't actually lose our loved ones, just the ability to see them. If you can raise your consciousness, you can see and talk to them just like before. And we do this on a regular basis, but rarely remember our encounters. Often it's in the dream state when our brain is resting, but our mind is able to travel. That's one of the places that it's easiest to connect with them because we're drifting around on our silver cord, sort of like a balloon, and we're able to communicate with them and spend time with them. To develop that ability and remain conscious of your experience and connections does take some special development, although some people are directly and individually gifted and don't lose that ability from birth. For many, it takes a particular dedication to do so. But it is possible. I have, and I also help others to do so. When we meet those that have crossed over in a dream state, we only have a partial remembrance. But those are actual contacts and encounters with those individuals. One change that occurs when someone passes is that we spend our nights with them instead of our days. We're conscious of them astrally rather than physically. They've removed themselves from their bodies, but other than that, there's no change in them. It's like taking off a coat. They might feel freer and lighter because they're carrying less weight, but there's no change in their identity or personality because their passions, intellect, emotions, and affections are not part of their physical body. I think of death as them walking into another room where they can be sensed and heard, but not directly seen. It's just a change of state of being, not a change of being. And like water can shift from ice, which is a solid, to water itself, a liquid, to a cloud in an evaporative state, energy and matter cannot be destroyed, only changed. physical matter transforms into a denser astral matter. That's just like particles in motion. And if you were to look at the chair that you're sitting in, or the steering wheel of the car that you're holding, or the desk that you work at work, it appears solid, but we all have been taught in school that it's actually particles in motion. So when you hit the astral state, you are able to relieve yourself of pain, fatigue is gone, physical impairments are remedied, but you can see the physical world. You can't always communicate with us that are still in body. So those in spirit speak, but we don't hear them. They touch us, but they make no impression. And at some point, they actually realize that they are dead, and that although they have an etheric body, they're no longer in the physical one. A British general that had passed is quoted by Ledbetter to have said, "If I am dead, where am I? If this is heaven, I don't think much of it. If this is hell, it is better than expected." Once we realize that we have passed, we begin to understand that there is a rational life to be lived beyond in this new world. And when we're out of body, our thoughts and desires are able to express themselves in visible form. And this is actually true for our thoughts and desires in the physical realm. So be careful what you think. The astral world or etheric realm, the manifestation of our thoughts is instantaneous. If we think of someone, boom, there we are with them. If we want to travel to see another country, realm, or planet, we're there. Our etheric body is the same as the one that we have here. Although don't despair if you're not happy with your body, because another bonus of being out of body is that we can morph or shapeshift into whatever body suits us. So if we want to be an African princess, voila, or a Roman warrior, done. Our etheric body is made of a finer matter. Even in life, it comprises the largest portion of our makeup. Maybe you've heard about the space between the molecules is greater than the molecules themselves. So shedding the body is sort of like shedding an anchor, and we are just set free. Not that everyone is happy at their state of being, and for some it might take them the equivalent of decades to even realize that they are no longer in body. Now, I mentioned that we retain our state of mind upon crossing. And that holds true for someone whether they're addicted, mentally addicted, or they love sports, or whether they're dull or enjoy music, art, theater, or science, nature, or writing, or whether they enjoy learning, communication, travel, or service, are good at relationships or not, and whether or not they have an interest in developing their spiritual gifts. However they were, that's how they are upon crossing. So if they had a lack of interest in much at all, their experience is more than likely going to be pretty uninteresting. But if they had a great curiosity, there's absolutely no limit to what you can explore, experience, and learn. The good news also is that just like here in the physical realm, by changing our thoughts, we change our world. So at any time at all, we wish to have a new experience on the other side, there it is, waiting for our will to just allow it. That's really beautiful, isn't it? And even more lovely is the state of perfect happiness, which is the end of the story for all of us, when we are ready to get there. But again, we don't have to wait for that experience of total bliss and happiness if we can allow it into our physical lives. So there is no heaven and no hell. More, there are graduated states of being based on your awareness and vibration. Heaven is not a place, but a state of consciousness. Heaven is here, around you, in the air that you breathe, in the light that surrounds you, in the mental and etheric plane that is embedded into the same matrix of being of which you are a part. Another interesting thing to contemplate is that when we cross, we are initially in the astral realm where we can see, and sense everything in the physical world, and it looks to someone who has passed just like it does to you or me. But upon closer examination, the particles that make up the physical world in this astral perspective that they have start being perceived as just that, vibrating particles. Our ego, which is referred to by Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, the medium that channels Abraham, our ego is referred to as the leading edge of our divine self-expression. Our ego creates the physical expression of ourselves. And once we let go of the ego, in an altered state on planet Earth or as we cross into the realm of spirits, we can start to perceive the other realms. But there is a place beyond the astral realm where we are still focused on this earth. The astral realm is where we can still see and feel the textures and shapes of this world, whether they can feel us or not. But the next realm beyond that is referred to as the mental plane or the realm of thought. It's where we enter the land of light. It's the plane of the divine mind, the universal mind. And this is a place where you hear stories of streets of gold and the halls of learning and wisdom, and the great libraries of the world are there in the other world. The beautiful sights and sounds that exist, not even an echo of this life. This life is more of a subdued echo of that dimension. Ledbetter suggests that there are realms beyond that one that would be very difficult for us to comprehend. He refers to that realm beyond the mental realm as the Deva Shamic realm. And I'm going to spell that for you, Devachamic, which made me think about devas, the elements of the earth, and shamans as the sort of mediums, healers, and fortune tellers of other cultures. The Deva Shamic realm, a sea of unlimited and limitless bliss. And I agree. I'm sure that there are at least 7 layers to the other side, like those layers of our aura that grow stronger and higher in vibration the further that we go, or more accurately, the more aware we become. I'd like to share a view of what happens to us after death that was given to us by clinical psychologist Dr. Michael Newton. He was a master hypnotherapist, and he had 40 years of study, and his patients were able to access memories between lives. And I will interject that my personal preference for someone to access their past lives or between lives or have a spiritual experience and meet their guides, the best would be to recall them directly without someone guiding you, because that becomes a pure altered state. Only by experiencing it on your own leaves you free from any suggestion by another. So when you're in that deep and suggestible state, you can have a direct experience. Hypnotherapy can be very helpful therapeutically for overcoming fears or addictions. And I just like to separate the psychological from the spiritual. And as far as psychic development or spiritual exploration goes, I do not recommend hypnotherapy as a means to get there. I'd also like to emphasize that in my contact with individuals that have crossed the steps or phases that Dr. Newton mentions are not uniform, and a particular person might experience some, but not the others on crossing. Their life after death experience and return to Earth might be somewhat out of order or different. It's not an absolute order here. I did find it curious and interesting what he had written, and I thought I would share them with you. The first is death and departure, and then gateway to the spirit world, homecoming, orientation and life review, staging and transition, placement in soul groups, new life selection, choosing a new body, rebirth, and forgetting. Now, as to death and departure, some people do see their physical body as they exit, usually with a sense of detachment because it feels so natural. Some people, as they pass, don't want to move on. They feel as if they've left things undone, or they want to exact revenge on a person that's responsible for their passing, or bring that message of who it was to the ears of those that loved them. Some people see a light or become part of a light when they die. The light can appear in the distance, and they may feel themselves slowly gravitating to it, and generally a sense of love and peace. That depends on how open they are to that vibration. I think of the light and the transition as the tunnel passing from darkness into light, and it sort of heralds the join between the worlds. But not everyone is aware of passing through it. Some people are greeted by loved ones who are there to welcome them, and those people serve as facilitators in their transition, sort of like a family reunion. They're not necessarily relatives from their current earth life. They might be soulmates that they weren't able to meet up with, family pets. They might be family members or connections, significant relationships with people that are from previous lives or have been with them throughout their soul's evolution. Certainly there may be family members that don't welcome them or attend that stage of transition because the person crossing might not want to see them when they arrive at all or ever, because not all relatives or immediate family members are kind to them. Some mature souls actually skip that step because they're pretty adept at returning home and they don't need the introduction. If someone has suffered trauma before passing, maybe due to an extended illness or cruelty on the part of others, there's actually a place of healing that they go to immediately. And sometimes that's where they first become conscious of having transitioned. I call it being in hospital. There we're cared for by an array of spirits, sort of like having many Reiki masters around you or energy workers around you, simultaneously supporting your energy. Only when the individual is ready mentally and emotionally are they offered the option of experiencing their life review. And this is when not only do they see their most recent life in its entirety, but they experience the words and actions as if they were the other people in that lifetime that were affected by them, positively or negatively. And people can feel ashamed or as if they'd failed themselves, but there is no judgment by others over there, just a gentle, eternal perspective offered by your guides, which puts things in perspective for you and helps you to heal and move on. It's more of a reality check or a personal assessment that might lead you to a decision to return to Earth or work on things out of body. And Dr. Newton explains a place like a bus station or airport known as the staging area that serves as a place of mass transit that transfers people to the next destination. I actually haven't had that experience. I've seen it in movies, but I haven't personally heard anyone share that encounter. But it makes sense that it could be part of our collective journey, letting us go to the levels that we have achieved in our states of consciousness. Then there's the decision to return or not, the choice of that new life, new body, family, geography, soul group, guides, everything you need for one more round. And a new life contract, one clause of which is forgetting who we are at a high soul level. And again, each experience is highly unique, and that's from a medium's perspective. So I'd like to share with you a couple of stories from people that describe their experience upon crossing over for the people that came to ask about them. I just want you to know that when I talk to people on the other side, I consider it a nearly sacred process. And it has to do with the depth of emotion that they and my clients feel. And it is really my highest honor to be trusted enough to be allowed into that most intimate world of grief. Not everybody calls about talking to people on the other side. Often they have questions about their life or their particular gifts. I just love the opportunity to talk to people that have crossed. So this is a couple of stories, just brief ones about those that passed. I had a daughter with me who had wondered how her mother was doing. We did some talking back and forth during the reading about things that were going on in my client's life that the mother wanted to comment on, and also in general that she was feeling well. One of the questions that came up was, well, what's it like for her over there? Her mother showed me one of her favorite places was to sit on her porch of her etheric home and look out over a landscape that had mountains and clouds. I find that very comforting myself, but the thing that was a little bit different, you know how when clouds go over the mountains, they cast a shadow underneath them, and that changes the colors of the trees and rocks and things on the mountainside below. That's what was going on there. And besides it being a lot more full-bodied in terms of color, the most interesting thing to me was that as the colors changed, there was music. So the color was actually sound. And I found that particularly interesting. There was a whole new dimension of things. Even though I'm telling you that story, it's really hard for me to tap in and re-experience it, but it was very real and beyond words when her mother let me experience that with her. Another similar occurrence that I found interesting was a mother had come to me because her son had passed. During the process of the reading, it was ascertained and verified that he had been a musician. And he was getting a huge kick out of being able to go into a garden and pluck the flowers and move the leaves with his energy. He said it's like playing an instrument, a natural instrument with his energy. And he would actually compose songs. He was in a playful mode of just letting those sounds come through and be part of his enjoyment. We mentioned that, our interests continue. And I thought, what a wonderful, wonderful way to have an interest in music continue. That's our tale from our other side. We do wonder, what do they see? And that really depends on how progressed they are and what they're perceiving as a result. I wanted to share with you today a meditation. Meditation is a really important part of a daily practice for us all. It's been shown that if you can take even 2 minutes a day to stop what you're doing and just pay attention to your breath going in and out for just 2 minutes, wherever you are, that exercise trains your brain to do more than one thing at a time. It makes you more efficient and calmer. They've suggested in research that a multitasking brain has a harder time falling asleep because it's more stressed and has lower energy. So by taking time to relax your brain, just for those 2 minutes every now and then, maybe once or more times a day, it can undo the negative effects of trying to manage everything at once. Today's meditation is on forgiveness. We usually have pretty strong emotions that come up about forgiveness because of the hurts that have been done to us and the lack of remorse on the part of the person that's done it. But the past is gone and the future is yet to come. And really all we have with us is the present. So how do we live in the present if we cling to the past? This meditation comes from the web. It says self-help and selfdevelopment.com. 2 emotions or 2 thoughts just cannot occupy the mind simultaneously. So if you're entertaining bitter thoughts or happy thoughts, the other can't find a place in your mind. So however much you have been hurt, holding on to those memories is only going to stop you in your tracks. Forgiving them is the only way to release both you as well. I'd like to clarify that forgiveness technically cannot be rendered until someone asks for it. However, releasing that pain and anger and putting the fact that they are a human being in perspective and letting go of the negative emotions for yourself, that's what I mean by forgiveness. Obviously, forgiveness being an act of allowing yourself to grant forgiveness to someone else doesn't come until they ask for it sincerely, and they may never do that. But holding on to it is really adverse for your own health and well-being. The ability to respond is on your shoulders. So if you take that responsibility, then you can bring yourself to a state of happiness. In a way, forgiveness is actually a selfish act because it benefits us by setting us free from the pain. It simply means releasing the negative energy that we've been holding on to. If you like, you can close your eyes if you're not driving or needing to manage machinery or something. You can say these in your heart with me. The past is gone. I only live in the present. I live in the now and design my future. The past has no effect on my present. I will follow the principle of live and let live. I realize that my parents gave their best to me. I forgive them for any wrongdoing that they unknowingly did to me. I also forgive myself for holding a grudge against them and for playing that grudge out in the lives of other people I care about. I forgive myself for being imperfect like everybody else. However, I still manage to live the best life that I can. As I forgive myself, it becomes easier to forgive others. As I follow the path of forgiveness, life becomes a new, clean slate on which I can draw my new life plan as I wish. Each day is a new opportunity. Today is the first day of my new life. I forgive everyone from my life in the past and love myself into the future. I move beyond forgiveness to understanding, and I have compassion and kindness for all. I am forgiving, I am loving, I am gentle, and I am kind, and I am safe in the knowledge that life loves me. I hope that you will be kind to yourself. Kindness is something that we don't talk a lot about. We appreciate it in other people, but we don't really talk about it a whole lot. It just is something that we neglect in ourselves. I have a prayer, actually, that I picked for today. I'm not much on doctrine, but I am on spirituality, and I also appreciate diversity. This prayer comes to us from the United Nations Day of World Prayer, Prayer for World Peace. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti unto all. And Shanti means peace. May there be peace in celestial regions. May there be peace on earth. May the waters be appeasing. May herbs be wholesome, and may trees and plants bring peace to all. May all beneficent beings bring peace to us. May the Vedic law propagate peace in all the world. May all things be a source of peace to us. And may thy peace itself bestow peace on all, and may that peace come to me also. I'm not advocating any particular view of the divine. I believe that all of us are exactly where we need to be. And I hope that that was not offensive to any of our listeners that might have different personal viewpoints. I just thought it was a beautiful thing. And I liked the part about lead us from the unreal to the real in particular. I have a psychic development exercise for you, so let's get our psychic knuckles cracking. You can develop your psychic abilities in so many different ways. And one fun way is to sort of test yourself and see if you can challenge yourself to become more sensitive about something in particular. You can kind of play games with your guides, whether you know them or not. You can say, okay, help me out here. And you can do things like, if you're going in for a job interview, ask your guides, what color shirt is that person going to be wearing? How are they going to be dressed? Or if you're going to the mailbox, how many letters are waiting for you? How many pieces of mail are in there? You can ask yourself all kinds of questions. You can create cards for yourself too, where you draw pictures, or you can use just regular flashcards. If you're around any kids that have flashcards or you're learning a second language, those are useful. Or you can print some out from the web and just pick vehicles of transportation and pick out a car, a truck, a train, an airplane, etc. Maybe even roller skates or a skateboard or something. And what you do is you flip the cards down where you can't see them, and you start feeling what mode of transportation is on that card. What exactly is there? And you'll find that your psychometric ability to feel what that is and your connection with your guides to hear better what it is or to see via an image what it is will improve. You can do that with shapes. You can do that with color chips from one of the local building supply places. You can just experiment in ways to sort of test yourself. One of the ways that I particularly like to do is to take a deck of cards. And this is really easy. You can do this just like while you're getting ready to sleep. Usually people don't have time for it in the morning, but you could do it in the morning or during your meditation time or hour, depending on how much you dedicate in that direction to your spiritual development. What you would do is you would flip down the cards, ruffle the deck up and shuffle it so that it's completely different. You would start laying your hand on the top of the card, face down, and you would feel it. And you would use all your senses. You would feel from your gut. You would allow images to come to the projection point at your third eye, which is the same place if you're replaying a memory in your mind. It's the same place that those images appear. So if you're not quite sure where that is on your body, it's between your two eyes, sort of forward from your forehead, around eyebrows are a little bit higher there. And it's like a projection screen. So just to find that place on yourself, you can kind of imagine something from the past so that you can see where that imagery appears. So you can ask them, red or black? And they may answer you red or black, but they might also flash a color to you, or you might have a sense of it. Different people read differently. We take in information differently, just like we have people that have deficit in their sight and are challenged with that. And we have people that are sharpshooters, just have almost an instinctive feeling of where that bullet's going to end there. Or dogs, for instance, hear much better than we do, and some of us have better hearing than others. If your strong suit is visual, then you'll probably get images. If your strong suit is auditory, then you will probably hear words. If it's sentient, if you're more clairsentient, you may just get an impression. You may just know. So feel those cards and test yourself. And I believe they say that anything in a deck of cards greater than 25% is definitely demonstrating psychic ability. I've seen some of my students just have an amazing rapport with the cards and blow me out of the water, make me question why I'm teaching them because they're much better at it than I am. I don't know. I get about 56% when I do that. Last time I checked, maybe it's time to do another test. I think that you might have fun with that. Anything that you can do really to make it a game between you and them. And what happens in the process of doing that is that your confidence develops. If you go to the mailbox and you're like, it's empty, and you open it and it's empty, and then the next day you go and you're like, oh, there are 3 cards in there, 3 something, there's something big and 2 small ones, and you open it up and boom, that's what it is. Your confidence starts to grow. Not just your confidence in your accuracy grows, because that, of course, would be entirely arrogant if you were only worried about that aspect of things, but also your trust and your intuition and your sort of tuning your instrument so that you can be more accurate. That brings up the question, can you be accurate? And I say yes, 100%. We're proven that by the chicken farmers of Japan. I saw a wonderful TED Talk. It was about the chicken sexers of Japan. I believe it was Japan. They'll have to correct me if not. They were doing a sorting of male and female chicks, And how would they know whether it's a male or female chick? It's just a ball of fluff. There's no genitalia or crowns or combs or anything to indicate their gender. And you don't have time, even if you had a microscope, not going to be able to do that. When they trained their people to look at these chicks, they would just sit there, and if they put them in the right thing, they would say, good, good. And if they put them in the wrong trough, they said that the male was female or whatever, then they wouldn't say anything. And within, I believe it was 3 months, I know it was less than 6 months, the newbies were 100% accurate. So if people can sort chickens that are indeterminable for food production, then I certainly think that you can develop your intuition that way as well. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our show. In our next episode, it's going to be a little different. I'm bringing in Citizen X, and we're going to talk about ghosts. If you need more information, again, you can reach me on my website at Medium Tracey, that's Tracey with an EY, mediumtracylockwood.com, or you can reach me by phone in the U.S. by texting me or calling me on my cell at 540-998-9789. I actually have a little quote for you today. I am determined to be cheerful and happy in whatever situation I may find myself. For I have learned that the greater part of our misery or unhappiness is determined not by our circumstance, but by our disposition. That was Martha Washington. And I'd also like you to remember that it is never inappropriate to be kind. And without integrity, you have nothing.